This is Newton's three laws of motion, really fast. In the year 1687, physics was here. A book was written by a guy named Isaac Newton, and it talked about some pretty crazy cool stuff. Physics stuff. Now this book was about stuff doing stuff. It had 3 rules about stuff that did stuff, but first we have to understand what stuff is, and stuff. So first off, stuff is anything that has stuff called mass. Mass is the stuff that takes up space. Mass, also known as matter, comes in 3 states: gas, liquid, and solid. People are really interested in things with mass, but what's even more interesting than plain stuff? Stuff moving, which is why Newton wrote 3 laws about stuff moving. The first rule basically said all things with mass does predictable stuff. It stays still when it's still, and keeps moving the same way if it's moving. Why does mass do predictable stuff? Well, Newton made up a word for it because he could. Inertia, which means that stuff with mass doesn't like to change what it's doing. Inertia is a pretty important word because it's a word that makes the other 2 rules about stuff make sense, which is great. The second and third rules are about what happens when you try to move stuff that has mass and inertia. The second rule says that stuff moving involves the equation sigma F equals ma. The net force is equal to the mass of an object multiplied by its acceleration. To put in words that make sense, the heavier something is, and the faster you're trying to move it, the more force you have to use. So kick an empty box and it'll go flying, but kick a box with lead weights and it won't even bother to move. Why won't it move? Because it doesn't like to move because it's got a lot of mass and therefore a lot of inertia. Since the box was still before you kicked it, it wants to stay still because of its inertia. For the third law, we can use the lead weight box example. If you kick the box, not only will it not move, but your foot will really hurt. Why? Because Newton says that for every action, there is an equal and opposite reaction. This means that the box hit your foot with the same amount of force you kicked it with. These 3 laws are fundamental to the study of physics and by extension the rest of the world around us, which is pretty neat. And those are Newton's 3 laws of motion explained really fast.